Saraswati.
Dandavad, Maharaj. Dandavad.
Dhanyavad. What's all that stuff? You're in the kitchen, but
Yes, I'm cooking now.
what are you cooking?
I'm making some khichdi for Mahaprabhu.
Oh,
And,
here where I am, it's Mahadvarasi.
oh,
Was Ekadasi was it yesterday though?
No, today.
Oh,
for London.
oh, you're making it for the distribution program.
No.
No.
It's a Ekadasi for us today.
But you're making kitri for distributing to.
No, I'm making khichdi a tiny little bit for the offering for Mahaprabhu.
Okay.
Then I'm making some Ekadasi preparation.
Oh, Lavanya Mai.
Thanks, Maharaj.
Dhanyavad. Are you also in the kitchen?
I'm in the Pujari kitchen just after the doing the arti. Just
Oh.
washing up after the arti.
And that was Lavanya.
You
look good.
Oh yeah,
Looking
well
well.
now. I'm all well and full of antibodies.
Happy to see that.
T cells and things.
And we can't see the antibodies, but we can see you.
Once you start to get well from it, it's like really cool. Like you feel like a unicorn because you're like, bing.
Then antibodies, the definition should be that they're against your own body, right?
Maybe they are.
They're revolting against your body. Antibodies. Well, I don't know. That's obviously not. But you know, and all the times I was going to the mott, I never saw there that they made sabudana kitri. Not once did I ever see them make it in the mott.
In which in Navadip or?
Oh,
really?
did anybody ever see them make sabudana kitri in the mott?
No, never.
It's quite tasty and
It's really nice.
tapioca as well. But I wonder why they never, somehow or other, they never made it. I wonder what does that tell you? Anything? Perhaps nobody had any interest in making sabudana kitri in the mott. Maybe they figured it was, you know.
Dandavad, Maharaj.
Dhanyavad. How are you, Falguni?
Good. Interested in that name of that kitri. Can you repeat it again, please?
Sabudana kitri. It means kitri that's made from tapioca.
Oh,
Tapioca.
Chandra is not a big fan of tapioca, so maybe that's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they didn't make it in the mott because they figured, well, that Ekadasi is meant for simple living and we don't have to worry about satisfying people with sabudana kitri or tapioca kitri, maybe. People can rough it and not have anything like that for today. But I thought when it's made nicely, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
Ragnavali makes a very good.
She makes the best one.
Who makes it?
Ragnavali.
Ratnavali. Oh. Is she on? Is she watching today? Is she here?
I think she's maybe at work or coming from work. Let me check.
And how is everyone? I can now go to gallery view. Huh? A small gallery.
Dandavat.
Dhanavat. Varun, where are you?
Hi, Janar Maharaj. I'm in Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay. And I heard you might be coming here.
Yeah. I was hoping to next Thursday.
Okay. Can you ask everyone in Salt Lake City to send me a list of who's coming and which dates so we can have everything ready?
Okay.
Where are you from originally?
My fam. I grew up mainly in Ohio, but my family and I was born in Hyderabad, India.
Oh, Hyderabad. Okay, nice. Was your father in the army or something?
No. My family's from Hyderabad, India.
Oh, okay.
So they all moved here.
All right. I lived in Hyderabad for over a year.
Oh wow.
It was quite nice. I liked it. You know what I liked about it? It is like it seemed to me it seemed more peaceful than northern India.
Yes, I haven't really been in the north. I've always stayed. I've always visited or been in or stayed in the south. Yeah, it's a bit more calm for me.
Did you never went to Bengal?
No, not Bengal. I've been to Mumbai and Rajasthan,
Okay, well,
but not Bengal.
but okay, but still, obviously, Hyderabad would seem to be a lot more calm than Mumbai.
Yeah.
I rather liked Hyderabad. Nice and warm weather, pleasant.
Yeah, so you must know Banjara Hills and Nalakunta and those places, the Osmania University.
I maybe some, but I don't know so much. I was staying in Hyderabad and then traveling to Karnataka to Chennai, things like that. But and also, actually, more than anything, I traveled in Andhra Pradesh. Well, it was in those days, Andhra Pradesh. There was no Telangana. What is it now?
Telangana.
Telangana. No, I went to various places: Vishakhapatnam, Vijayawada, Guntur, Rajamundry, Kakinada, all those guys. Prodatur, different places. Tirupati, different places.
Oh, nice.
Pradesh.
Yes, Tirupati. Tirupati is I've been a few times. That's where my family's deity, Lord Venkateshwara. So we would go there. We would go there every time we visited India.
Yeah, yeah. I arranged for Prabhupada to go there.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you definitely Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad, and everything.
Something, yeah. I probably know Andhra Pradesh more than other states in India.
It's nice.
It was nice, very nice. So good to see you. I'll see you when you come here. Ask the devotees to send me who's coming and during what dates, because, or if you can just mention, maybe I'll see that. Maybe I'll talk to them also. But
Yes, I'll put it together and then I'll send it over.
okay. So you live in Salt Lake City now.
Yes, I've been here for about 6 weeks near the temple. I'm staying with Narsingha Prabhu. So
Oh, very nice.
yeah, so I'm learning a lot. You know, I've only begun. I was introduced through Jaydev and Chintamani, and I met Vishaka a few months ago on Zoom. So I've been trying to read and chant and associate as much as I can.
Okay, very good. Who, Devashis, who's Tari Krishna?
Hare Krishna is the brother of Lalita Madhava Prabhu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Maya.
Yeah, and Maya's his girlfriend. A very nice couple.
Okay.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
Mira, le bishmor.
I knew
Yeah.
that. I knew Tari Krishna and Lalita Madhava years ago in India.
Actually, Tarit is not present right now, unfortunately. I'm representing him. But he might come very soon.
Okay. And what's your name? Maya?
Maya, yes.
Okay.
I'm a new member of your family, beautiful family.
Oh, very nice. Are you from London?
No, I'm from Lebanon.
Oh, you're from Lebanon. Oh.
Yes. And now living in Spain with Tarit.
You're living where?
In Spain, Barcelona, Spain.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Huh. Well, no temple here though, just an ISKCON temple.
Well, we have lots of devotees in Spain there.
Yes, I met them. Yeah. But right in Barcelona, it seems like there are not a lot of devotees, right?
No, not so many, but
In Barcelona, but in other cities, yeah.
like Bhakti Kushama, works in Mexico, and he's the acharya in Mexico, and I believe his family is from the Barcelona area.
Mm.
You know, so what is it? What do they call that? So, yeah, Barcelona is like Catalan, right?
Yes.
Separate.
Okay. Do you speak Spanish?
Yes. I've been here for many years, so yes, now I can say I'm able to speak in
All right.
Spanish.
So Ashamar's parents, his father and mother, they're from the Barcelona area. They're Catalan, and he's born in Mexico. But there are a number of devotees there, like Shamasundari.
Dhanyavad. We are in Madrid.
Yeah. ¿Tú conoces a devotos que viven por Barcelona?
Hariananda would be the one who's closest. He's in Girona.
Yeah.
But in Barcelona, no, I don't think there are no devotees in Barcelona at the moment. No.
Sí.
There are some devotees close by, like in Castellón. There is a devotee called Deva Kumar with his family, and in Alicante, so not too far away, but yeah, I think Castellón would be the closest.
Yeah. Hariyananda kind of separated himself from us.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Hey. Subhadra, ¿cómo estás?
¿Cómo estás? I'm good. She's good. She's having dinner.
Oh, okay.
Having some dinner alone.
Go to Chandra.
Dandava Maharaj.
Dhanavat. So what do you do? Today is a Kaddish. Today is a Kaddish. You can't sell arepas. Then what are you going to do?
Sell arepas and eat potatoes myself.
Sell arepas and eat potatoes. Okay.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Krishna Mohini, how are you? Dhanavat. ¿Tú estás en la casa con Shama Sundari? No. Krishna Mohini, ¿estás en la misma casa con Shama Sundari?
I think
Yes,
they can-
Maharaj. I am in a different room.
Okay, different room. All right. Jadu Gopal. Who's
Dandavad Maharaj.
Dandavat? Jadu
How are you?
Gopal, where are you?
I'm in Ireland.
In Ireland. Oh.
Yeah. A place called Limerick. Limerick City, yeah. Midwest Ireland.
Sound is gone. For a minute, your sound was there. But
How are you, Maharaj? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you now. For a few seconds, I couldn't hear you.
Okay. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good. You sound good.
Okay. So nice. Everything is good there. You also
Yeah.
are the Kadasi?
Say again, please.
Is today a Kadasi also there?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Potatoes.
Uh,
Yeah. Roast potatoes and simple soups.
potatoes are always good.
Very good. Yeah, of course. I'm Irish. We love potatoes.
Well, I would always call, I think Prabhupada said that potatoes are the king of vegetables. And then some other time he said that okra was the king of vegetables. And somebody said, but you said potatoes are the king of vegetables. And he said, potatoes are the king of poor man's vegetables. But on Ekadasi, potatoes rule. They are the king of everything. Okay, so here we are. Vora Chandra, tú y Falguni están bien?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, yes. We are fine. Luckily here, everyone is somehow going back to normal. The majority of the population is vaccinated, so everything is opening again. They are going to put everything is going back to kind of normal.
Yeah, kind of normal. Here they're
Kind
saying,
of normal. Yeah.
here they're
But-
saying with some new variation. They're saying, oh, even if you're vaccinated, you can still get this. So
Yeah, well, I mean, it's gonna happen. We will have to live with them, and then a lot of people will die again, and the non-vaccinated will get it harder, and that's it. And then we live to. We will learn to live with it. In fact, this whole country is putting in place like a measurement in the lines of deal with it. like this is after the 19th of August, even if you are being pinged, which is notified that you have to isolate because you've been in contact with someone, they say go back to your work and don't do anything because we need to work. This is what we're gonna do.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The only people that need to isolate if they get in contact with somebody is somebody who's rich. Only rich people need to isolate.
Yeah.
Working class people, they can go back to work. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You tell your wife and your kids, no, I cannot work because I am isolating. Okay. Good luck with that.
Well, Devashis told me that there was a nice quote, but we're not gonna repeat that quote. We don't want to politicize this.
No. Of course not. Of course not.
Of course not.
No, it's already everything very clear. I have a question for you. I'm trying to find the beat of the.
It only matters. It only matters if you get sick if you're rich. Poor people, they always can get sick. Nobody cares.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this country, it's for free to vaccinate. If you're not doing it, it is your own fault. I mean.
All right, whatever. Okay,
I have a question for you.
We'll get off of this topic. Sorry.
Yeah. Narottam Das Thakur, he was born before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, correct?
No,
later.
wrong. Later.
Okay. So anyways, so this is the thing. I'm reading the Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was calling out for Narottam before he was born.
Yes, I know that bit, but in the, let me see, what is this chapter? This chapter is the, wait, let me see that. I'm checking here with you. Well, when he started the Harinam, he was gathered, I think it's in the house of Srinivas Pandit, and then the disciples said, like, we don't know how to worship the Lord, and then he started with this song saying Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namaha. He showed the disciples how to worship Krishna in this way. So I wanted to ask you, in which, what did he, if that song, because I just know that song because Narottam Das Thakur, but that song includes Sri Chaitanya Nityananda, Sri Advaita Chandra, Gadadara, Sri Vasagaura Bhaktavrinda. So I wanted to ask you if you know about this song, if it was like a progression, because the first line was given by Mahaprabhu himself. That's what I'm reading.
Yeah, he gave Hari Haraya Nama Krishna. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna
Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govindaram Sri Madhusudana.
No, but I don't think he gave the whole stanza. If you go back and read, what did he give them of Hari Haraya? Can you quote it? Because
yeah. I'm reading it from you for you. The Lord started to sing Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govindaram Sri Madhusudana. Then in this
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama
Gopala Govindaram Sri Madhusudana. That's what it says here.
Well, it's not the whole verse. If the song is Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama, that part is out there. Gopal Govindaram Sri Madhusudan. And so he gave the first and third line of that stanza of the song.
Okay.
But even so, I mean, there's many things quoted by Rupa Goswami, by other persons that are based on what was previously written or sung, etc. but incorporated into their scriptures. For instance, many things are quoted in Padyavali by Rupa Goswami and previously existing, but so it's just because Narottam Das Thakur quotes something that Mahaprabhu gave. Anyway, I don't. What is the point? What are you asking?
I thought that the song, I really thought that Narottam Thakur was before Mahaprabhu, and I was wondering how this song came to be like this, but you just started saying, no, he was later than Mahaprabhu.
Later.
No, that was it. It was a total misunderstanding on my side.
Yeah. Mahaprabhu called out to Narottam before Narottam appeared.
And it's Narottam Das Thakur who disappeared in a pond of milk or something like that.
Yes, like that. That was after he disappeared, and then his disciples were saying that now you've disappeared. And the way that he disappeared, they were saying that the Sahajas who were criticizing him because he had initiated Brahmins, they said that his death was a punishment for that, and then Narottam's disciples were lamenting, and then Narottam reappeared and engaged in activities, and then later he disappeared went into the Ganga, and then just turned into milk, something like that. So he came back by the. I was. What was it? What I was on Sunday? I was talking about that, and I was saying that, these the people who are against the Vaishnava mission, and they would say that Narottam was punished for initiating Brahmins. He's born the son of a king. But I was like, what? Narottam Das Thakur, you're going to criticize him? It's like, come on.
Why they were criticizing him for giving?
Because they criticized the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They criticized the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They can't. They were saying that Narottam, he had disciples who were Brahmins, and he himself wasn't a Brahmin. So according to some of these foolish demons, I'll use old ISKCON terminology, foolish demons. I mean, where they get off criticizing Narottam Das Thakur? Who are they? It seems beyond audacious to criticize Narottam Das Thakur. Like, how can somebody justify that? Totally spiritually blind in order to be thinking that Narottam Das Thakur has to be subject to your, formulas. But there are always persons like that. There are people who criticize Mahaprabhu himself. In fact, when it is said, when the Muslim government was, punishing or trying to stop the Sankirtan movement and trying to and came to Srivasanga, broke a mridanga, etc. It said that that was happening more because of the complaints of the Hindus than because of the Muslims. Have you heard that? You must have heard that, right?
Mm.
It was the Hindus that were riling up the Muslim government. they were saying that he is giving God's names, he's giving Harinam out freely to people who shouldn't be chanting the Maha Mantra because they're not born into, they're not qualified to chant the Maha Mantra.
Sometimes I find very, especially reading this Chaitanya Bhagavata, it's like a complete chapter of the life of Mahaprabhu, and it was very impressive to me. How do you say that? Amazing. How when he was younger, Vishvambar would walk through Navadvip, and the Vaishnavas will be like longing, oh my God, he's so beautiful and he's so smart and everything. We wish he will be a Vaishnava, then that will be the answer to our praise. And then he says, like, even he was like, even he was the Supreme Lord working among them, he could not recognize him being the Lord. So and you see like very harsh words they were saying about him at that time. So it is interesting that later it is becoming like an offensive, but before it was just like Mahamaya playing out, so they could not see who he was.
Yes. You have you have one way of seeing things presented by Vrindavan Das Thakur, and you have another way of seeing things as presented by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. And as Krishna Das Kaviraj says, he accepts Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Veda Vyas of Chaitanya Leela. But Srila Govinda Maharaj, he wrote his poetry describing that Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Veda Vyas of Mahaprabhu Leela, but also Krishna Das Kaviraj is like, what can you say, the Gupta Veda Vyas. It's like he himself, he came, Krishna Das Kaviraj is giving what many of the devotees were longing to hear. They wanted to hear about Mahaprabhu's activities after he took sannyas.
Mm.
So Srila Govinda Maharaj, Guru Maharaj actually is describing the aspect of Mahaprabhu presented by Vrindavan Das Thakur of Mahaprabhu in Navadip is more the vision of Gaur Narayan. Gaur Narayan. Which is also interesting because Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he's describing, what is it, from the roof of Vidyavachaspati, he's visualizing seeing Mahaprabhu below, is it? And he's praying, when will Mahaprabhu take off his sannyas robes and become one of the people again? And Navadip, when one of Srila Guru Maharaj's godbrothers, whose name shall not be spoken. What do they say? Whose name is, what's that description from the fables of, what is it? How do you say
Is
that?
it he who shall not be named? Something like that.
He who shall not be named. Tried to establish Ratha Yatra in Navadip. And Guru Maharaj, rightly so, said this should not be done because Ratha Yatra is happening in Puri, and the mood of Mahaprabhu is to take Jagannath, who's Krishna, want to take him back to Vrindavan in the mood of Srimati Radharani. But Navadip is non-different from Vrindavan. So how can you have Ratha Yatra in Vrindavan? It's rather Rasabas, is it not?
Yes.
That, but he whose name shall not be spoken defended that, and led to some discussion with Srila Govinda Maharaj, and led to the some disagreement. And those who don't know the history of the Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat, etc., they get everything wrong, and they will say, accrue to he whose name shall not be spoken. And it is about this misconception of not recognizing that Navadip is non-different from Vrindavan, etc. That person wanted to establish Ratha Yatra in Navadip. Am I correct in that?
Yes, Maharaj.
So that led to some major differences of opinion, and ultimately persons from that side criticizing Srila Maharaj, which would seemingly be unpleasant to anybody associated with the Sri Chaitanya Saraswati. But as I said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he expresses the desire that Mahaprabhu will remain, take off the sannyas robes and remain in Navadip. And we could say, philosophically, that as Krishna never takes a step out of Vrindavan, so we could say Mahaprabhu is always eternally present in Navadip. That would seem to be a fair conclusion, right?
Yes.
But yet, what Vrindavan Das Thakur is presenting, it is more from the vision of Gaur Narayan. And is that not true?
Yeah.
And so then what Vrindavan Das Thakur is expressing is a particular vision, and it's also very much his own way of seeing things, and not saying he's wrong in any respect, because Guru Maharaj said, well, if you have $1 million or a billion pounds or £1,000,000, however you want to phrase it, then you also have any smaller denomination, like £100 or £50 or etc. It's all contained within in £1,000,000. In Ireland, they use the same monetary system.
No, we use the euros. We used to have our own equivalent of the pound. It used to be called a punt, but that's gone now. We're using the euro. So yeah, 1 million euros.
All right. So if you have €1,000,000 or £1,000,000, then you also have £1,000 or €1,000, etc. So, in that sense, when Vrindavan Das Thakur expresses his particular vision of, he presents a particular vision, which is, I think I've discussed this before, he presents something unique to it, so he'll see Mahaprabhu more in that Vishnu aspect than of the idea of Mahaprabhu being Krishna covered with the sentiments and the beauty and the luster of Srimati Radharani. Although, as Gaurachandra is mentioning, Gaurachandra, are you still here? There's Falguni. But as
He just received a phone call, which doesn't seem to be good. So he's on the phone now. Sorry about that.
okay, all right. So anyway, you get that particular vision of Vrindavan Das Thakur. But at the same time, I was saying, I'm just reading now that the Madhyakanda, where he's expressing Mahaprabhu's, in the first chapter of the Madhyakanda, which is what I'm reading now in the class in the morning. I just read the first half. He was expressing Mahaprabhu's deep separation from Krishna, expressing that, and crying and showing all the hair standing, showing mood of deep separation from Krishna and crying and everything. So it would seem that although he's speaking of Mahaprabhu as being as being non-different from Vishnu, what's being expressed, in particular in the first chapter of Madhyakanda dealing with the Sankirtan movement, he's expressing a mood of deep separation from Krishna. So how it all, I'll have to continue reading. I've read through the Chaitanya Bhagavat before, but I'll have to see how it all comes together, because there are some different conceptions being presented, but at the same time, he does express Mahaprabhu's overwhelming feelings of separation from Krishna. So, does anyone wish to speak about that or say anything about it? Anyone have a comment about that? Or a question, if not a comment?
I do have a question, but not about that specifically, but from our Anonymous sent a question in.
Yes. So Anonymous, A Anonymous is reincarnated, huh?
Yes. So their question is,
Anonymous is not a figment, or we might even say a filament of your imagination.
no, they're real. And this is their question, this evening's question. When it comes to purifying ourselves of material desire, perhaps there can be a focus too much on trying to give up something. The scriptures describe the process as being like poison in the beginning and nectar at the end. Can you talk about this process of getting a taste of the higher energy, so the taste of the lower nature may not have a hold, keeping us stuck at a certain level and perhaps disabling our positive progress towards immortality?
Yes, that's a good point that Anonymous has raised. A good point, because that is actually true, that sometimes we see that persons, they will overemphasize the rejection of what is perceived to be material nature or enjoyment, etc. And not that I'm saying that that's not that I'm saying that that's desirable, but sometimes the overt rejection of so many aspects of material desires seem to be providing a mask for what is really there. What is really there is attraction and repulsion of the objects of the senses. They're just two sides of the same coin. You know, that somebody has an attraction for material enjoyment and they masquerade it or they hide it in terms of a repulsion. And I saw that, you know, many times I've seen that when, you know, when I saw it, when many devotees were younger, they would quote that verse when I think of enjoyment, especially of sexual enjoyment, my lips curl and I spit at the thought. So people were very, you know, it was something distinct in terms of Anglo-Saxon culture of presenting the machismo that we're kind of used to seeing in maybe Latin America, but being expressed by Anglo-Saxons. It was unusual. And yet, and they were very strident in their rejection of, you know, any of, not only went to the point of being disgusted with so-called sexual attraction, but it also would show itself as being what we in modern terminology would say anti-feminist, you know, being against women and things like that. And I saw that expressed at a certain stage. Many devotees were doing that to kind of, and it was totally unrealistic. It was totally just like a cheap show. And the result is, of course, which is totally to be expected, everyone who expressed so much repulsion for this sexual enjoyment and women and all and things like that, they're all, of course, years later they're all married. You know, although before they were, quote, sannyasis or strict Naistika brahmacharis, although I don't think they knew what that word meant. So they expressed it in this way. And so, as Anonymous is saying, the people sometimes express an overt rejection of materialism, or not materialism, of enjoyment, and they also show a strict adherence to strong tapasya. I know people who wouldn't sleep. They wouldn't sleep at all because they were thinking that sleeping is just another form of indulgence. So we could see that the Goswamis of Vrindavan, the 6 Goswamis, they didn't feel any need to sleep. And now we're observing Ekadasi, and there are devotees who are strict in their observance of Ekadasi without also reducing sleeping. But it's not something artificial among the advanced devotees. But there were many persons who were trying to artificially show rejection of enjoyment and show strong tapasya without having any spiritual advancement. It was just, so to speak, like a costume that they were wearing. And what Anonymous is presenting here, I think, is a valid point, that people sometimes overly emphasize these things and don't show that this will naturally happen for somebody who has some advancement. They'll lose the taste. By what? Of course, by experiencing a higher taste, one loses the lower taste. Now, I don't feel personally that I'm also qualified to be able to speak about developing a higher taste and therefore losing any vestiges of, material enjoyment, because I feel that I can't utilize my own experience as evidence of that. But I do know in the case of, you know, of those persons who are actually advanced in spiritual consciousness, that they rather have taken shelter of the Lord, and as a result, they've lost the taste for enjoyment on many levels. So, I mean, we can look to our acharyas as examples of that. And there's so many examples that you can that you can give philosophically, because you can't leave the shelter that you've known unless you can take, you know, as the Prabhupada Jivanamrita says, there are those persons who have taken full shelter of the Lord, and they do so because they understand that aside from the Lord, they have no shelter. And then there's another group of persons who have taken shelter of the Lord because they've lost the shelter of what they previously relied on or depended on. We spoke about that and gave the example of Govinda Das Kaviraj, the author of Bhajahure as an example of a person who had previously taken shelter of the demigod Kali, and then later could understand that Kali wasn't really full shelter for him, because he wanted to develop, you know, his advancement in beyond liberation and taking shelter of the Lord, and then was advised by Kali Ma herself that only Govinda can give you that. So maybe that has something to do with his name, Govinda Das. But then one can understand that, as the Prabhupada Jivanamrita states, that one can take shelter of the Lord because one understands, aside from the Lord, I have no other shelter. And the second case mentioned is that one takes shelter of the Lord because one has lost one's previous shelter. In the case of the case I mentioned, his previous shelter, he was attracted to Kali, the worship of Kali, but then he lost that shelter because she directly advised him, what you're looking for, I can't give you. So there are, you know, that way. But so what I'm saying is, I mean, I've heard the example given that like a caterpillar or some insect like that is able to transfer himself or herself from one leaf to another, but cannot give up, cannot exist just sitting in air. The caterpillar puts front legs, plural, on another leaf before abandoning the old leaf. So, you know, in other words, it's progressive. So I would say that the idea that I can give up material enjoyment without taking shelter of the Lord, how can that be done? One has to have, what is the word, some lokastandi? Is that the correct term? Lokastandi? One has to have some shelter. If you can't give up something unless you have another shelter. How can you give up? All right, right now in the material world, one is completely addicted to enjoyment. Then how can one give up that frame of reference without having another place in which to live? One has to live in some place. Someone can say, well, the homeless, they have no place to live. No, the homeless actually do have some place to live. They're not in a home, but they're in the street. You know, they're not hovering in the air. They don't have a hovercraft. For them, unfortunately, their home is the street, which is no home at all, but it's not like they don't have any place to live. They're not, you know. So those who are trying to abandon material enjoyment and will show great tapasya, great renunciation, it would seem that's artificial. And we see even with the impersonalists, what is the verse? Aruya Krichena, but do you know that verse? That the impersonalists can go so high mimicking liberation, but ultimately they will fall down again to this material level of enjoyment because they have failed to achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. So one can mimic that I'm free from material desires, but it is the nature of the soul itself that the soul has to have some kind of desire. If it's not spiritual, then it will be material. And that is the cause of the impersonalists falling down from their imagined level of liberation back to this material world, because something latent will cause them again to seek the only kind of shelter that they know, or the only kind of enjoyment they know, which is something on the material level. Now they may masquerade it as opening up hospitals, doing welfare work, etc. Fine, maybe that has some vestiges of the mode of goodness in it, but that in itself is not, that doesn't show any level of a spiritual attainment. To be able to open a hospital, to be able to feed the poor, to be able to do anything like that, that doesn't show any kind of level of spiritual attainment. That may show some level of acting in the mode of goodness, etc. But that doesn't show any kind of spiritual attainment, because it's still something, it may be the mode of goodness, but it is still a mode of material nature. Whereas we see on the spiritual level, the devotees show attraction for the lotus feet of the Lord and a detachment from the material nature. Attachment to the Lord and detachment from matter. And both, you can have attainment of, you can have detachment from everything that is mundane without having some kind of level of attachment for the Lord's lotus feet. And that will be the point of what we consider to be at least that is described as Shantaras, right? Shantaras has two aspects: detachment from everything that is mundane or material, and attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, there may not be yet on Shantaras some level of attainment of seva, or what is it? That comes in Dasharas. So really, when they talk about the rasas, Shantaras is sometimes not so much described, and it might be what we would refer to the level of meditation or something of that nature in this world. But still, even in Shantaras, we see there is two aspects: detachment from that which is mundane and attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. So you can't have detachment without having attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore we would say on that lowest level of Shantaras, the two of them go together. Is that not true?
Yes.
I don't know. Does that answer, Anonymous?
I think so.
Yeah. If Anonymous has any further questions, they can anonymously submit them. But how do you do that? Oh, through a conduit.
Yeah.
The Anonymous can submit their question through the conduit of Devashis. How do you know Anonymous?
Well, we don't want to out them, do we? But they're sending their message to Ishanuga, and I'm reading that.
Okay, good. We don't want to oust Anonymous. What is it? Not oust, out.
Out. Don't want to out them.
We don't want to out them. Tungarasa. Where is Tungarasa? Do we? Chris?
In Norway. Is that right?
Yes.
Norway.
Norway.
Dandavad Maharaj.
Dandavad.
Very nice to see you. To be together with all you here.
Nice seeing you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very happy to see all the devotees.
Yes, nice. There was somebody from Norway who, I forget what it was, something to do with the Olympic Games in Japan, some person in Norway.
Okay. I don't know.
Established.
Maybe, yes. I don't follow the Olympic Games, sorry.
They established a world record in the hurdle races or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Then, what else? And who else you're in Norway. You were here you've been here for several weeks. I saw you last week, I think.
Yeah, I haven't. I was at work, so sorry, haven't been here. Sometimes I'm working at in the evening shift, so I can't.
Where is your work?
I'm working with disabled people. You can say like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Krishna Chaitanya in Ukraine.
Dandavad Maharaj.
Dandavad. All's well in Ukraine? Nice?
Yes, everything is fine. How are you, Maharaj?
I'm going on. I'm okay.
Great.
In a different way, but okay. And Subhasini, now you're back from work?
Dandavad Maharaj. Yeah. Very happy to see you. I'm not working, Maharaj. I'm just at home. Yes.
Okay. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Maharaj. Very happy to see you.
Nice to see you. And Krishna Mohini. Which Krishna Mohini is this?
On Spain.
I don't know which Krishna Mohini that is. Colombian Krishna Mohini or which Krishna Mohini?
No, it's Ishanuga's sister, I think.
Oh, yes, of course. In Spain. In Spain. We have one devotee named Krishna Mohini here from Colombia. But I forgot Krishna Mohini, Ishanuga, and Saraswati. The triumvirate. and Bhagavan in Venezuela.
I'm not, Maharaj. Very happily giving for you, Maharaj.
Happy to see you. And you're also in Barcelona, right?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
Just like what you're in Barcelona, and who else is in Barcelona, Spain? Who is that?
Maya.
Oh, Maya. So Maya in Barcelona, Spain, and Bhagavan in Barcelona, Venezuela.
Yeah, South America.
Yeah, South America. And Pitambar, ¿estás aquí o nada más tu nombre?
Sí, Gurudev, Dandavat.
Dandavat. ¿Todo bien?
Sí, bueno, no exactamente, pero más o menos. Pero I was remembering one example you gave several times, that when you were in Panama and you were seeing like big birds flying, and then I thought it was related to what you were explaining about Mayavadis.
Yeah, it was the
Sí, una cosa de estúpido, pero
I'm trying to remember. It was, I think it's from, it was from the verse. It's from that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that was relating that of the Mayavadis falling down, or it was Genye Ravindaksha Vimukta Maninas Tvayasta Bhavad Avishuddha Buddhaya Aruya Kritrena Parampadam Tata Patanti Yado Nadrita Yushmadangraya. Persons who are falsely under the impression of being liberated without devotional service to the Lord may reach the goal of the Brahma Jyoti, but because of their impure consciousness and for want of shelter in the Vaikuntha Lokas, such so-called liberated persons again fall down into material existence. And as you mentioned, Pitambar, I thought of that when I was in that verse in particular, when I was in Panama, because in Panama, I used to sometimes look up into the sky and I would see these birds, buzzards, which would be very, very high in the sky, and they would fly so nicely without even moving their wings. They would glide for miles and miles without flapping their wings. They were so high, they just caught air currents, and they would just soar. And they look very majestic, so they're flying so high. But then sometimes those same birds would come down to the earth. And why would they come down? Because they're like vultures. They eat dead bodies. So they come down to eat most disgusting things, some roadkill or something. They fly down to eat that, maybe the entrails of some animal that's been run over. And when you see them, when they come down to the earth, they're actually very ugly looking birds. They're very ugly. They're gross looking. But when you see them up in the sky, they look so majestic. So similarly, the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, they supposedly look very majestic when they have attained this level of so-called liberation of the Brahma Jyoti. But just as these birds come down to eat the most abominable things, the Mayavadis lose their position of liberation by the latent desires that are inherent in everybody. Those desires would awaken and bring them down back to the level of this world to enjoy which they so vociferously or very loudly are rejecting. Yeah, but that's the only enjoyment they know. They don't know any. There is no attainment or no level of understanding of impersonalism, of having any attraction for that which is really spiritual, which means the devotional service of the Lord, of knowing how the Lord is attractive, all attractive. He who what is the word? He who attracts Madan Gopal or Madan Mohan, he who's attracting even so-called Cupid. That's the Lord is attractive to everyone. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj talks about that. He says that the followers of Madhvacharya, they don't comment on so much on the 13th chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Because that deals with the illusion of Lord Brahma. So why wouldn't Madhvacharya and his followers, why wouldn't they want to comment on that chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Who today will answer that? Somebody besides Devashis? I know he knows the answer. Does somebody want to tell me?
Brahma is the leader of that Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya.
Yes, exactly. It's the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, and he's Lord Brahma. Tane Brahma Rida Ya Adikavaye Muyanti Ya Suraya. He's the one who instructed Lord Brahma. The Lord has instructed Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma is the leader of the Sampradaya. And if he falls in illusion, it's like saying, my spiritual preceptor, my guru, he was an illusion. He was an illusion. Then somebody will think, well, how can your guru be an illusion? Like one gentleman I knew, he was from a particular group of vegetarians, but they didn't believe in eating anything cooked, I believe, and they would only eat one thing. Like their meal might be a pineapple. That would be their home meal, just one thing. So I asked him, how do you work that? And he said, what do you eat with that? And he said, no, nothing, just hunger. Just hunger. Hunger will more. So, okay. So then he told me that his particular guru, who was the leader of this whole famous person, not so famous that I remember his name, but he was a famous person, the leader of this group. But then later in life, when he was very old, like 60, 70 years old or something, he developed attachment for some woman. And then he just thought that following this rigorous diet that he had, that he wouldn't have enough energy, sexual energy, to be able to engage with this woman. So then he actually deviated from his diet and started eating meat. And then after that, that person died. So I thought this was rather for a whole mission that was based on the teachings of this man, and that was his final trajectory, so to speak. It seemed to me this was rather shaky grounds for following somebody who they respected as a guru. Your guru taught you this super austere form of vegetarianism, which is even beyond that of the, what do they call them, the vegans, far beyond the vegans, but that their own guru fell down to eating meat because he felt attracted to some woman. It would seem to me to be very dubious grounds for a guru, right? Especially one who's teaching vegetarianism. I wouldn't want to, you would think that somebody who had a guru like that, it's time to, what do you say, hang up the, what could we say, hang up the, if it was sports, we would say hang up the cleats or something like that. But I don't know what you would say with this.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, something to that. The drawing board. But you couldn't really promote that kind of person as being a guru. So similarly, Madhvacharya apparently was, I can't speak for him, but he seemed to be a little traumatized that their guru, Lord Brahma, was placed into a state of illusion by Krishna. He saw Krishna as a small cowherd boy, and he's thinking that, of course, what is it? Brahma's Atmabhu, right? He comes from the navel of Lord Vishnu. He comes from the Lord's navel. He doesn't even have a mother, right? And as he himself later admitted, well, I'm used to the ways of Lord Narayan or Lord Vishnu, but this Krishna youngster, he's very confusing. He seems his steps are rather small steps, and he carries some sweets in his left hand. He doesn't even seem to be following any Vedic principles of not, showing some kind of actions like those of the Westerners who eat or carry their food in their left hand. I remember once Srila Govinda Maharaj, he asked me to give him some medicine. And I gave him some medicine, went to give him some medicine. I went to give it to him with my left hand, and Govinda Maharaj told me, not with your ugly left hand. So, but this Brahma was saying, who is this Krishna? He's small steps, carries food in his left hand, not very civilized, and then he tested Krishna. How did he test Krishna? He stole the calves and the cowherd boys and hid them in a cave, right? And then he put a slab of rock over the entrance of the cave so that they couldn't get away, even though they were all put in a state of yoga nidra, Do we have any yoga nidra inducing agents now in this world? No. Maybe chloroform or something, I don't know, but not really yoga nidra. Anyway, and then it's described where they were trapped inside the cave. And what's the example that's mentioned? The Bringi insect. Is it the Bringi insect or something? That insect that traps other insects like You know that example, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the cowherd boys were put in yoga nidra along with calves, and they were put inside the cave, and the cave was sealed up. And then Lord Brahma is thinking, oh, now I will go back and see what kind of illusion in Krishna my mischief has created. But when he went back, he saw that all these cowherd boys and calves were now coming. First he saw they were all playing with Krishna just as if nothing had happened. And then he thought, how'd they escape? He went back and checked out the cave, looked inside, but they were still there, asleep in a state of yoga nidra. Then he thought, what is happening? And as he's looking at them, the calves and the cowherd boys, he sees that they're all showing a four-handed form of Vishnu coming from there. Then he could understand that something strange is happening here. And he became illusioned by he tried to create illusion, but he became illusioned by his own illusion. Because for Krishna, this was not any difficulty. He just expanded himself as all these cowherd boys and calves. So then Lord Brahma realized, somehow or other, he realized that and he said, I'm used to the ways. I'm used to the ways of my father Narayan, but I can't understand this Krishna. How he's doing this. He himself was an illusion. So what is the example there? Anyway, Lord Brahma, Madhvacharya didn't want to comment about that chapter because it shows that their Sampradaya Guru was an illusion. I mean, you could understand that. If you're following some guru and then your guru apparently is in a state of illusion, and you might think your guru has lost some credence. Is that not true? Is that possible? So, but then Guru Maharaj commenting about that, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, well, it's not so unusual that Lord Brahma can be illusioned by the Lord. He said the Lord himself sometimes the Lord's activities put even himself in illusion. And what is the example of that? Well, one of the examples is when Krishna sees his own reflection in a pillar, a jeweled pillar in Dwarka. And he's looking at that reflection. And what is he's seeing in that reflection? He's seeing something beyond himself. He's visualizing somehow or other, he's visualizing the form of Vrindavan Krishna, Shyam Sundar. And he's placed in illusion. So even the Lord can, as Guru Maharaj said, even the Lord himself can become illusion. What to speak of Lord Brahma. We don't have a big problem with that. We don't become all shaky and wobbly kneed considering that Lord Brahma was placed in a state of illusion by Krishna. His own, so to speak, his own tricks came back to haunt him, is it not? He tried to play a trick on Krishna, but rather he became tricked by his own trick. Is that not so? So, now what was I saying this in relationship? I mentioned the case of that guru who rather came to a shaky position, but I don't think that was the point. The point was about this, do you remember what I was saying that in relation?
The birds flying high.
No, that was long ago.
Kind of segued into it from there.
I don't think that was directly related to this, but maybe it was. But how they get from, well, anyway, that's the nature. That's the nature of illusion. So who just asked, did anyone ask a question beyond anonymous? Did someone ask a question?
We got another one from anonymous just come through.
All right.
It's quite long.
All right. Let's hear it. Give me some time to rest.
There have been descriptions of pure devotees always hankering after the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus has a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. They are like the bees who are always after the honey. Srila Rupa Goswami has sung a song about this lotus honey, comparing himself to the bee. Quote, "O my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly therefore give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the resources for all transcendental honey. I know that even big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible one, my ambition is such, for you are very merciful to your surrendered devotees. O Madhav, I know also that I have no genuine devotion for the service of your lotus feet, but because your lordship is inconceivably powerful, you can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of the heavenly kingdom, and therefore I am very much attracted by them. O Supreme Eternal, please, therefore, let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet, so that eternally I may be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service." End quote. And there are so many descriptions and pictures of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Which one are we to meditate on?
Which picture we are to meditate on?
Or I think it means like what conception of the Lord's lotus feet should we meditate on?
Well, the idea of meditating on the Lord's lotus feet, little, what can I say? A little beyond my my, what is it? My pay
grade.
A little beyond my pay grade. I mean, I can know the service of Gurudev, and I can understand the example given by here of the highly evolved devotee and their meditation upon the Lord's lotus feet. But in what form of that meditation that will take, and what form of the meditation on what form of the Lord's lotus feet will my meditation occur? Well, it's not something that's really come to my mind, so to speak, because I'm trying to develop, some taste for the service of Gurudev and his divine instructions, and I'm far removed from meditating on a particular image or aspect of the Lord's lotus feet as far as my meditation. But that doesn't mean that I'm discouraging any kind of inquiry, but I'm just saying, as I said before, it's a little beyond my pay grade, so to speak. Is that a fair answer, or am I avoiding the answer? Or evading the answer? Huh?
No, I think that's correct, Maharaj.
I mean,
what do we know?
Well, I mean, there are many many different pictures of the Lord and his lotus feet. They're sold by Bridge Bossy. They're Bridge Bossy prints. They have many different aspects of the Lord's lotus feet and his images and all that. And I guess in the marketplace I can buy some kind of image of on which to meditate. But unless it's actually some form of service and meditation given by Gurudev, I can't see any real interest in that. I've got so many. The problem is I have too many other things on my mind, and that's my disease. But I do want to rather fix my mind on this lotus feet and of service to Gurudev. I mean, if that makes sense. So that's, if you're asking which aspect of meditation on the Lord's lotus feet I will do, then I will meditate on the aspect of the lotus feet of the service of Gurudev as my aspect of meditation upon the Lord. How can I serve my Gurudev? What can I do? How can I actually come to the point of, surrendering to his divine instructions and fulfilling his manifest and unmanifest instructions and desires, that I would rather kind of meditate upon that than develop some kind of artificial meditation which is not really corresponding to my understanding anyway. It's like sometimes some people will meditate or think of a particular sound vibration or what they want to hear or etc. in terms of their engagement, but I would rather just keep things very simple and kind of maintain my crippled mind absorbed in the service of Gurudev. That I would prefer to do, rather than I hear what Anonymous is saying, and I heard the nice poetry he mentioned and everything, and certainly that is from the Shastra, but I don't feel I can answer the question because I'm not really, just as if you told me or said, well, there's a leader of many different camps, etc. So what leader of what camp are we to serve? I mean, again, beyond my pay grade. I mean, that exists, but I'm not on that level. So I'm not going to, although there's a reality perhaps underlying some questions. I mean, I'm not capable of answering the questions directly because, besides, I'll even go so far to say is that's not of any concern to me about which aspects of the Lord's lotus feet I'm to be meditating upon. I mean,
yeah, Guru Maharaj actually said about that, if you try to conceptualize some form of the Lord to meditate on, it'll just be a kind of imagination, and he said the other senses will descend on it like vultures, and because they want to give their material idea about those things, because that's the only point of reference that we have. So all of that will just be a futile act of imagination, where what Rupa Goswami may be describing from his perspective is not what we'll see from our perspective. Just some imagined version of that.
Quite true. Where's it? Pitambar was here a minute ago and now he's gone. Pitambar.
Yes, Yes, I'm here. I'm not gone.
Ya parece la imagen y todo que tienes de ese. Ya parece muy bien.
Sí, está muy bien este teléfono. Es.
Okay, muy bien. So, any other, did Anonymous, he only expressed that one question, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, interesting, but as you said, I never thought about some aspect of the Lord in which I'm to meditate. Do we have any other questions?
Guess not.
I have a question, Gurnar Maharaj.
Dhanyavad.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Maharaj, by your mercy. I have a question, Maharaj.
Yes.
You know, in our Bengali community, we try to tell people about Hare Krishna or Krishna consciousness, everything. They listen everything, they obey everything, but the way they are, I don't know why they're not joining us as in our team or in our like for initiation, because they want to maintain everything like Krishna, Durga, Kali, Shiva. They want to maintain everything in their life. They want to eat meat, normal life, and they want to worship the Krishna as well. So in that way, actually, how can you proceed?
How can we proceed? Well,
To help them, to pray to them.
Well, isn't that rather, it's not just Bengalis, but it's, so many persons, they will have their conception of Krishna consciousness, well, they will consider it to be so-called broad category of Hindu religion. And Bengali aspect of Hindu religion, I mean, there's different kinds of worship that are more common to Bengal than they are to other places in India. For instance, in Maharashtra, you might find more worship of Ganesh, and you won't find that so much in Bengal. But still, whether it's Ganesh or whether it's Durga Puja or Kali Puja, it's all under the category of just the Hinduism. It's rather a religion. It's a conception of religion. And Krishna is isn't Krishna saying in the Bhagavad Gita? He's saying, "Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja." So he's saying to put aside your conceptions of so-called dharma, because isn't religion always kind of associated with dharma, my dharma, my religion? And you'll find that kind of provincial interest, whether it's not just in Bengali conception and not just in other parts of India, their conception, but you'll find it in any, religion, whether it's Christianity or any other religion. They'll have their cultural ideas based on a material conception of what is religion. They'll have it reduced to some material formulas. And in this case, it's easier for them to do so because we're not talking about something they're unfamiliar with. We're not talking about Christianity or Buddhism or Muslim religion. We're talking about Krishna consciousness, And for many of them, they will perceive it to be, you know, that Mahaprabhu appeared in Bengal. So what we are doing, we're the ones who know because we're the Bengalis. We're not like you Westerners who don't really know what you're talking about. So one person asked, I remember Guru Maharaj quoted it as they asked to Achyutananda, they said, how is it that you're taking this up, but we're from the place of Mahaprabhu and we don't have so much attraction. Why is it that you've got some attraction and we haven't? And Guru Maharaj said that Achyutananda Swami answered that question, and he answered that by that verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. That it's not a question of physical proximity, because all of us are wandering from one universe to another, one body to another. So we're going through so many species of life, but it's only when one Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, when one actually gets the mercy of a pure Vaishnava, then one can begin to actually chant the holy name, worship, render service to the Lord, and that plant of devotional creeper will develop. But otherwise, the answer is that they think they have some understanding because they're from Bengal, or somebody may think that they have some understanding based on their religion. But actually, their understanding is not really valid, it's not complete, it's not real. It's, what's that verse? How's that verse begin? Not padayed yadiratim shrameve kevalam. Dharma svanustita pumsam vishvaksena katasuya. Not padayed yadiratim shrameve kevalam. Let's begin. Dharma svanustita pumsam vishvaksena. If whatever your religion or dharma that you're doing, no paraya yadiratim, if you don't actually develop an attraction for the service of the Lord's lotus feet, dharma eva kevalam. No, is that the ending? Dharma svanustita pumsam vishvaksena katasuya not paraya yadiratim shrama eva kevalam. Shrama eva kevalam. It's just a waste of time. Supposedly you understand, someone is saying they understand because they're from Bengal and Mahaprabhu appeared in Bengal and they appeared in the same place as Mahaprabhu and they speak Mahaprabhu's language. But I would say no, because you're still traveling in the material conception. You're still wandering throughout material existence, one birth after another. You haven't taken any kind of shelter. And you not parayadiratim. You haven't developed any attraction for the Lord's lotus feet, for the Lord's service. Also referring to, that the question of anonymous. How are we to meditate? Well, not parayadiratim. We're trying to develop some attraction for the service of the Lord's lotus feet. Our meditation will be in the form of serving the Lord's lotus feet. That will be our meditation. So if somebody says, well, what aspect of the Lord's lotus feet? My Gurudev will help me with that. I'm not so concerned. I don't have to draw a mental picture of the Lord's lotus feet. But I'll serve those lotus feet. And as far as Gautam Prabhu's question, well, I lived and I've seen how persons develop that. Now, for instance, Gautam Krishna, your daughter, your daughter is Ananga Manjari, right?
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
So she took initiation, but I've seen, are you from Bengal also? Well, I saw not just in Bengal, when I was living in Maharashtra, I saw people who became members of the mission and everything. But the last thing they would have wanted or even allowed, they would not allow their daughters to ever take initiation. They were completely against that. They could be, they could be giving donation and maintaining the devotees and helping this and that. But the last thing they wanted to do was to have their daughter involved in Krishna consciousness. Maybe they could justify it if their son, possibly their son, but not their daughter. They were ardently opposed to that. So already something has happened in your household which would have been anathema, would have been very much not desired by many of the persons. And why? Because they had a material conception of what is Vaishnavism. They had a material conception of what is Vaishnavism. And they're thinking, we want to maintain this conception that we have on a material level. We don't want to buy in, or we don't want to subject ourselves to any kind of manipulation which will come by accepting this Krishna consciousness on the level of spirit, or on the level of, let's say, of being a aspect that devotional service is actually an inherent desire of the soul. They didn't want to consider it like that. They didn't want to see Krishna consciousness as being actually, a level of consciousness based on the inherent qualities of the soul, or the constitutional position of the soul. Jivar Swarupoy Krishna Nityadas. They were not considering that. They did not want to consider that. They didn't want to consider that the soul is constitutionally related as a servant of the Lord. They didn't want that. They didn't want to dwell on that conception. So that's what you're talking about. How is it, and what is the, how could anybody go on maintaining attraction for instance, meat eating and all these other kinds of things, if they're really involved in the devotional service of the Lord? I mean, maybe you could justify, somehow or other, offering, like if you were in China, maybe you could justify offering a mushroom. Like when I was in China, some of the ladies who were trying to practice Krishna consciousness, they asked me, can we offer mushrooms on Ekadasi? That was one of their questions. Can we offer mushrooms on Ekadasi? Now, I didn't want to get into answering the questions like, you can't really offer mushrooms on any day. I didn't want to answer that because I felt that was not a form, not an idea that I wanted to promote to them, because for them, it would only have created some confusion. After all, mushrooms are vegetables, aren't they? Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask the mushroom. You'd have to be able to telecommunicate with the mushroom. Are you really a vegetable or not? Because they were thinking that mushrooms were vegetables, and I was not going to delineate about what we can eat and what we can't eat as far as mushrooms go. Because, I mean, you know, just like Govinda Maharaj said, when he was in Russia, one person asked him on Ekadasi, can we eat tomato? And Govinda Maharaj said no. And he said, because they asked me and I'm the Acharya, I have to say no, you can't eat tomato on Ekadasi. But he said, if they would have served me a tomato, I would have eaten it. So on that level of communication or something, you know, I'm not trying to establish strictly what can be eaten in China on Ekadasi. And just like in the West, we take things on Ekadasi that they won't take in India. Is that not so?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm saying that, well, I'm trying to answer this Gautam Krishna Prabhu's question. I'm just saying that, you know, that people are considering according to the limitations of their vision. And I'd say it's one thing for me, if I'm talking to Chinese persons, they're rather innocent. It's not part of their vegetarianism is about as far removed from China as the conception of maybe, what's the word for what's some of the examples of something imaginary, like pushpa,
The sky flower.
sky flower. All right, sky flower. So I would say for Chinese culture, they're not really able to perceive of that vegetarianism doesn't encompass eating mushrooms. So I can deal with that, but I cannot deal with very much with Bengalis eating meat and thinking that they're still involved in Mahaprabhu's mission. I mean, I just don't understand that. It just seems to me that they're just maintaining a material vision of what is Mahaprabhu and what is Mahaprabhu's mission. And as I said, I saw that in India, people were very restricted in terms of how much they wanted to commit to Krishna consciousness. And they were not at all thinking in terms of the verse, Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. They weren't willing to put aside their so-called material visions of what is Dharma. And I think that's the answer to the question that Gautam Krishna Prabhu is saying. That these persons, they're thinking Mahaprabhu is the worship of Mahaprabhu is a monopoly of the Bengalis. He appeared in Bengal. His mission is Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Gaudiya means Bengal, and we are Bengalis, so we know more than you. You are all a bunch of Westerners. What do you know about Mahaprabhu? You can't even speak his language. He was speaking Bengali. You can't speak Bengali, so don't lecture us. Don't tell us what Mahaprabhu stands for and who he is and what he's saying. We know more than you. We speak his language. You don't even speak his language. Everything that you're getting is a misrepresentation of what is the original Bengali, because this word means this, and this word means that, and Sangha means actually attraction for man and woman. You know, they've got preconceived material conceptions that they want to apply to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and actually they have no real conception. In so doing, as long as they're doing that, they don't really have a conception of what is Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And that's why everything you're saying, Gautam Krishna, that they do is wrong. It's wrong. And it's based on, and they cannot step out of what they believe is their conceptualized idea of Krishna consciousness. They can't step out of that form. They're, what is it that Guru Maharaj would say? They're form worshippers. They're worshippers of the form. They're not worshippers of the actual conception. That's how I would answer them. But now we have come to the stage now, 12:30, 8:35 there in England. We're now treading trepidatiously upon the idea of coming up to supper time. Supper time. So we're treading in a with trepidation, and we will soon end our Wednesday. It's strange. I haven't seen any of the children bust into here. Like,
oh yeah.
What has happened? Could it be that they're thinking that they cannot get lollipops on Ekadasi? I don't know.
Could be, couldn't it?
Could be. But no, I don't think so. If they came in here demanding lollipops, I would give that to them. Just accept. I would accept the karma myself. But, anyway. But they haven't come in here. So somehow or other this happened. Anyway, I'll end here. Does anyone have any comment? Suvasini, you're well?
Maharaj, I'm very well, Maharaj. Yeah, thank you. I wasn't able to join for the last couple of weeks, but yeah, happy to see you today, Maharaj.
What's happened the last couple of weeks?
Well, last week, Vishaka was here, and we had some programs in Limerick, and so I was also with her, the programs. And
okay, very nice, very nice.
And Jad Gopal, who is actually here, he's from Limerick. He's here in the Zoom, actually.
Yes, he asked some questions.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we went there, and so we had some few programs there. So that was nice.
Okay, very good. Okay, so my Dandavat pranams to everyone.
Maharaj.
Hope to see you soon. I will try to do that. I will have some desire to go to both to London and to Ireland. That will be my latent desire.
Jai.
Yeah, I'm very much look forward to that, Maharaj. Yeah.
Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.